Welcome to the Mind Myself podcast. I'm Esther, and it is my pleasure to be bringing you information about healthcare approaches, health issues, and people's health journey stories, all from the complementary, holistic, and integrative perspectives, helping you become your own best health advocate and helping you make your own informed choices because you matter. Hello and welcome to Mind Myself. I'm Esther. This is Conversations with E, and I'm thrilled to have our guest today with us, Ambika Devi. Welcome, Ambika.
Thank you, Esther.
Awesome. We're so glad you're here. Maybe tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you bring to the table.
I've been told I bring a great deal of information to the table. So what I find is the best path is to choose maybe one or two aspects or letting everybody know how they go together. But once we get into things, I'm sure you'll understand how all these different things weave together.
Awesome. And today we're going to talk about body, mind, and spirit. So tell us a little bit before you dive into that. What's your background in body, mind, spirit?
I have 21 years of teaching holistic health at the university level. I started meditating when I was 6 years old. I've studied yoga in 5 different schools, and 2 of them are traditional lineages. That's where I received the name Ambika Devi. I continue to study at that ashram, which is Shivananda Bahamas campus. Now they're doing virtual classes. So yeah, body, mind, spirit, you'll start to understand as I unravel this. So what these all are and why they all interconnect. But I think unless people take the time to understand where that term came from, they will never understand the truth of what it is or the whole of what I do.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect segue to jump in. What is body, mind, and spirit to you?
I think the first time I heard it was out of Deepak Chopra's mouth. Mind, body, spirit, body, mind, spirit. We hear it both ways. And also then Hay House started really picking up on it and using it. I've been a keynote speaker at events, and that was the topic of the entire event. And of course, the keynote. What most people don't understand is it wasn't a made up concept. It's actually a translation of another language. So, Esther, have you heard of the Vedas?
Yes, like Ayurveda and the Vedas that they talk about.
Ayurveda has the word Veda in it. Ayurveda comes from the Vedas. The Vedas are 4 books of knowledge. They're considered science. Many religions have been conceptualized as a result of these documentations, which are written in Sanskritam, which is Sanskrit. And so body, mind, spirit, or let's go mind, body, spirit. Mind is for meditation. It's yoga. Yoga is what was translated into mind in that phrase of mind, body, spirit, or body, mind, spirit. Body is Ayurveda. And Jyotisha is the spirit. That's astrology. So now you know, everybody, I'm an astrologer. I am a researcher and writer about meditation, having been doing this since I was 6 years old. And I have a book. My second book is called Unfolding Happiness, and it's an introduction to Ayurveda. There you go.
I love it. I love it. So that's just a brief history of where those terms come from. So why is body, mind, spirit so important for us in today's world?
You know, what's really interesting is that I go to a local networking group where there's realtors and bankers, mortgage brokers, pest controllers, builders, roofers, all kinds of people. I mean, all different types of work. There's energy workers. There's people who are selling aloe vera products, and me, I'm there. And I had a guy come up to me when I first started going back to the meeting, because this is a 15-year-old group and I was one of the originals. I can't believe
Wow.
I'm being an OG in something like that, right? And I decided I would give away gift certificates for 30 free minutes of astrology. And when I first joined, if I had tried to do this, they would have come at me, you know? But something has changed. People, because of what's happened the last couple years, I think, have changed. And a banker came up to me and he said, I had just given away one of these gift certificates. And he said, 3 years ago, I would have run away from you. But now I can't wait to talk to you. I want to understand more of what you do. I want you to teach me. There you go. There are other ways, and some of them are the old ways. And astrology, I'm always demystifying that because I taught holistic health. I ran student clinics. I taught people how to be professionals in the field as massage therapists, and taught aromatherapy and all sorts of techniques, reflexology, subtle joint manipulation, shiatsu, many techniques. Worked for a national organization, wrote questions on their national exam. But then I realized that the dis-ease of bodies, even if they were in accidents, was a result of the mind, and dove way back into meditation again, got a master's degree in it, and started researching it of how can I teach this to people so it's easier, faster, and they understand they're there.
Wow. So what I'm hearing you say is if we leave one of those elements out, it's going to affect all the other elements in our life. So if we just live from our mind, like our heads up, then we're missing something huge from our body. And if we disconnect from spirit, then our healing process in our body is probably not going to be as effective and powerful.
Well, if we look in the Old Farmer's Almanac, have you ever seen that? The Old Farmer's Almanac?
I've heard of it, but I haven't actually looked in one. I think
so
I need.
Here's a challenge for everybody. I want you to go online and do a web search, or go to a bookstore and open up the Old Farmer's Almanac. And in there, you'll see a picture of the body, like an anatomical drawing of the human form. And on it, you'll see all the astrological symbols. You'll see the signs.
In the Farmer's Almanac.
In the Farmer's Almanac. You'll also see information about planting and pruning by the moon. This also affects your hair. If you want your hair to grow faster, you cut it at a certain time. You want it to not grow so fast, you cut it at a certain time. There are better times for pruning, better times for sowing, better times for reaping. These are as per the seasons of the year and the equinoxes and solstices. There are different forms of astrology. But the form I use, which is tropical zodiac, that's how I'm mapping time and space. It has a lot of calculus. I hope I didn't put anyone to sleep yet, but I am really into math and science, everyone. And so it's a timekeeper. The zodiac system that we see in the newspapers, unless it's stating that it's using Jyotisha, which is also called Vedic astrology. Vedic, there's that word again, Vedas, right? Because it's a different time keeper. There's Mayan astrology. There's traditional Chinese astrology. The Asian countries all have offshoots of that. So these are languages of mythology, astronomy, and math all merged together to tell stories just like we crave, because we're not sitting around in villages around the campfire anymore listening to our elders. So this is the spiritual guidance, but do not mix it up with the idea of religion. It is not, because it is the basis of Western medicine and anatomy.
What?
Look at it in the Farmer's Almanac. You'll see.
So you're saying that astrology is one of the foundations of Western medicine? Okay, you got to say more about that.
Should we do another show on that, or
okay. Maybe, but right now give a teaser.
Okay, sure. No, I'm happy to explain. Who was Hippocrates? Do you know that doctors take a Hippocratic oath, right?
Yes.
Western doctors, they
Yes.
take a Hippocratic oath. Who was Hippocrates or Hippocrates or however you want to say his name?
A philosopher, right?
Hippocrates.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the father of medicine, but he was, he was Greek, and he did healing through dreaming. He had a dream. He learned from Asclepius. He's from that lineage, and so the Asclepian dream temples are in Athens on your way up to the Parthenon. When you're above the Dionysian theater, there's a whole section of the Asclepian dream temples there. And Hippocrates is from that lineage, and so it does go back further. Things have changed in modern times in just the last 200 years radically, as far as what even Western medicine is, but I don't want to digress into that right now. I'd rather get back on track. So let's go back to mind, body, spirit, because we could talk about that later. And you can research. Where did that come from? Find me a doctor who took the oath who can tell me the story. I'm still looking for one of those.
Yeah, I bet. And are they staying true to their oaths right now? But that's a whole other conversation.
Exactly. But let's just look at more modern holistic health practices.
Yes.
Which are there are, energy practices like Reiki, and that was laying on of hands. And there was an order of nuns that I used to study from in Pennsylvania, outside Philadelphia, who taught laying on of hands. They taught foot reflexology. They taught polarity. I took so many courses with them. They had this room with a globe in it where they all stood and they prayed over the earth. It was amazing. I mean, this was a magical order. I stepped foot on their property and there were wild animals. The first time I was there, it was after an immense snowstorm. Yeah, I live in Florida now, but I know snow. I'm not a wuss, Esther, because Esther knows snow. I just want you to know that. And we've known each other for a while. So I'm walking from where I parked across a snowy, grassy area underneath to get to my class, the main hall to check in for my class. And a window opens from a cottage and an arm comes out and flings food, and all these deer and wild animals come and eat from this nun's hand. She threw a little and then she's holding it and they're eating from it. I'm walking by. This is the first time I was there. So that that was a Catholic order. That was, they were teaching what I would call the early strands and layers of holistic health, because I was studying with them when I was a little baby practitioner, and before I taught at that.
Wow. So it sounds like these nuns, this order of nuns, had a real sense of and practice of body, mind, and spirit.
Without saying it, it hadn't been said at that time yet.
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So what advice would you give somebody listening today going, okay, well, I hear about body, mind, spirit all the time. Where do I start? How do I incorporate this into my life so that I can be more successful in business, so that I can have better health, so that I can have better relationships? Where do you start?
With the mind, which is not here. It's actually external, in my opinion. And we have pipelines up and down to it. It throws us chatter. It throws us sub vocalization. We never know when that's popping in. We can use techniques that I have a blog at my website that has a whole story of how I was taught a power phrase to change energy in my life. We have the law of attraction. You could be attracted to something. Maybe it's the law of attraction. Maybe you want to learn more about settling or quieting mind chatter. How about negative thought? Would you like to get rid of negative thought? I think so. And would you want to manifest? It just depends, but the mind connection and relationship is a place to begin. So often people are trying to get, third eye open, but the truth of chakras is you don't really have that much control. You can help it along with pranayama breathing exercises. That's a way to clear your mind. You can definitely, with prayer, mantra, or affirmation, to me, they're the same things, which is, I have an article about that. That's where you'll find the mind, the negative thought canceller, a mind taming technique, because I consider myself a mind tamer. That's what when people say, what's your title? That's what I say. Sometimes I say astrologer, depends on the crowd.
Oh,
Sometimes there's others too, other titles.
excellent. And we'll put links to some of the resources that you've mentioned, your blogs, if you have any other podcasts about this topic. Happy to link those so that people can access those as well. So you've talked about starting with the mind. What about next? So you spend some time meditating, or you choose whatever techniques work with you. What's next after that?
Health. Absolutely. Health. Actually, we were chatting in the green room before this about mind affecting health, right?
Yes.
So that's why I say mind first. If you can get a handle on your mind, you can change your health radically. Next is your relationship with your kitchen, because health begins in your kitchen.
I love it. Yes, I totally agree.
Well, that's an axiom of Ayurveda, is that there are 3 pillars of health, because Ayurveda is for your health. It talks about your environment. It teaches you something similar. If you might have heard of Feng Shui, right?
Yes.
Which is placement. Well, Ayurveda's Feng Shui is called Vastu. Many of these Eastern cultures are aware of this. If we look at their design sensibilities, we can see it from the intricate, amazing artwork in the tile work in the Middle East, and the mosaics and tessellating patterns that are phenomenal, to the way Japanese paper houses are made, or other things in other cultures and countries that are really living more closely with nature. So Ayurveda is very much about explaining what our state of nature is when we're born, where we're at, and how to get us in harmony, not balance. So this is a misnomer also in the idea of chakras. Again, we can talk about chakras in depth in a future show. Happy to just demystify this. And then spirit. Here's another way to look at it. When I'm coaching and counseling relationships, which is a big part of my private practice, individuals and couples, I explain to them we relate in 4 major ways, but this also interrelates with the nature that I was just explaining of body, mind, spirit. But we have physical, that's pretty obvious. We have emotional, we have intellectual, and that's where I see humor as a very important subcategory. And we have spiritual. Now, think about it. You can automatically identify pairs of people that came together spiritually. They met at a religious place, so, usually. A lot of romance is formed in religious houses. And then intellectual, maybe they met in school, right? Humor, maybe they met at a comedy club. And then there's emotional and physical. Those usually meet in social situations, bars, places like that, in the park, who knows? You can meet any, but I do see those as being really important. We have to have them. And how could you leave out one of body, mind, spirit? It just doesn't make any sense, which is why they're the 3 daughters of the Vedas. Which, there you go.
Yeah, and we could go into a whole topic about that, which we don't have time for today. So in terms of spirit, if someone says, well, yeah, I get the body and the mind, but I'm not religious.
Oh, yeah.
What's one quick thing you could say to them about how important spirit is, or what they could do to hone that in their lives?
Spirit does not imply you believe in a divine source if you don't want to. You don't have to prescribe to anybody's particular version. I know lots of people whose spiritual connection is nature. that happens to be something Ayurveda really recommends we connect with, is go outside and connect with nature. Have a plant or something that you nurture. This is why people love pets, because it connects them to an animal source, to nature in some way. But if you keep yourself away from nature, you're cutting off that spiritual necessary cord. But if you go a little further and you do imagine a divine omnipresence, I think that can kind of supercharge. This is my opinion, everybody. I do think that can supercharge it. I'm not telling you what kind or flavor to have. And then if you can realize you are part of that omnipresence and divine source, which I think a lot of schools of thought are trying to explain to us at all different levels in all different ways. When we can really realize that we truly are one, we talk about this, and we can start to function and behave that way, then we have all of those, all three.
Awesome. Well, that's been such great wisdom and information that you shared, Ambika. What's one quick thing that you would like to leave our listener with today?
You can absolutely tame mind chatter, and I can show you how and give you easy tools.
Fabulous. That's a fantastic way to end. Thank you so much for being our guest here on Conversations with E on the Mind Myself podcast. Thank you, Ambika.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you for being with us at the Mind Myself podcast today. We know that time is precious and you've spent some of your valuable time with us. We're grateful. If you would like to reach out to our guests directly, the information is below. And if you would like more from Mind Myself, that information is also below. Please visit our website and check out all the information about the different complementary, holistic, and integrative healthcare approaches, information about health issues, more podcasts, tons of blogs, and we even have a community page for you where you could reach out and tell your story safely, or you could ask questions and perhaps somebody else in the world is going through something similar to you. In any case, we're so glad you're with us, and we're doing this because you matter.